going to tell you right up front, there could be a trigger in this episode of Survivor Angels because traumatic childhoods can be tough to overcome. And in this episode, you're going to hear from a childhood trauma survivor and how she overcame it and how the angels were present too.
It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jodi.
This episode is about childhood trauma. This is the story of my dear friend from California, Elisa Garcia. Trigger alert if you have suffered from childhood trauma.
So my story is I was a very small child, and my parents I was born late 60s, and my parents never quite got out of that whole, genre. So they, were drinkers and partiers and whatnot. And I lived with my grandparents till I was 3. I was taken away and stayed with my grandparents till I was 3, and then my parents got custody of me when I was 3. And we lived in San Francisco, and we were living in a tenement building, a very large tenement building, high rise type of thing. And my mother would go almost daily to the little corner store, and it was a 1-room, like, hotel room type of place. And she would go down to the corner store, and I would watch her through the window. And one day she had gone down to the store, and the window was open, and I was watching her out the window. And she was gone a long time. And because I'd always kind of time her, I always kept watch of her. And I was only like not even 4 years old. And I start seeing pieces of paper coming down from like the rooftop. And at one point when we lived there, my mother and my father had a very volatile relationship. My mother took me up on top of the roof, and she threatened to jump with both of us. So that was before this happened, and my father talked her down, and they're both inebriated, and I remember all of this. And I remember watching her go to that little store, and I remember just looking out this window, and these papers started coming down off the roof, like little ticker tape type papers. And I started trying to grab them. And as I would reach for them, they'd flit away. And I kept reaching, and they kept moving away. And I knew it, it almost instinctively. And I remember this feeling like something's trying to get me to get these papers, like something's drawing me out. At the same time, something was holding me in. I felt my legs being held against the wall of the window and not being able to go any further. And I'm getting really frustrated. I'm not these papers. And the next thing I know, the door bursts open, the fire department comes in. Someone had reported a child hanging out the window of this place, and it was me. And I knew at that point, I had already started my path as what I do now. I'd already started seeing, communicating with spirit, but I knew that something was pulling me out and something was holding me in. And I have felt that connection my whole life, where because my parents were so volatile and so just they shouldn't have had children. They're the type of people that shouldn't have children. And so I have near death with them because they couldn't take care of us. They'd be, taking the cigarette out on mom's hand and things like that. So, but I've always felt there's someone else there that is really, and I feel it's an angel. I do feel I had an incident in Utah. I lived in Utah. Clear day, beautiful clear day. It had snowed, but it was in February. Beautiful clear day. Took my daughter to the grocery store. We're doing 60 down Highway 80, and there's a big truck next to us, and we hit both of us at the same time hit a snowdrift, like a 2-foot snowdrift. And I'm in my little SUV. My SUV starts spinning off the highway into the ravine. I was able to pull it back. I have no idea how. I pulled the car out of this. I am still spinning the other way, and the truck is right there next to us. And I literally felt my car be turned and straightened, and the truck just zoomed by because he knew like I was headed straight for him. And I pulled over and I cried. And my daughter, who's 2 years old and was quite the road rage car person, was like, "Bleep, bleep, mom." What just happened? I mean, she was 2 years old and she was like, she used a little bit of the car language that I'm not going to tell you. That was her dad. Yeah, her dad taught her that. But, I felt my car being straightened and I had no control of this car. And I thought we were goners, and she was scared and I was scared and I was just like, but yeah, I've always kind of felt like there's somebody with me, and I don't know if I really feel it's angels, definitely angels. And I thank them, I meditate to them, and I bring them in and I talk to them and ask them for help and guidance. And hey, I'm having a bad day. Can you just send my thoughts up to just help me clear them, I think they do a really good job with that. So those are my two big angel stories. I do have some more, but I've had a couple near death. I did die. Go ahead. Well, it was the parents again. My father took me from my mother. He did one of those, if I can't have you, she can't have you. He took me up to the Santa Cruz Mountains, and he had brought two friends with him. Unfortunately, they were all doing drugs the whole time. I was about 9 years old, and we're in a hotel room, like a seedy, creepy hotel room in Santa Cruz. And I just wanted to go home, and I kept screaming and crying, and he snapped, and he had his whole plan taking me up there that weekend, and not like I was supposed to go to his house for dinner. It was, the dinner visitation type thing. And his whole plan was that I wasn't coming back. And so, in the midst of me crying and screaming, and the manager of the hotel came up and said, you got to do something about this kid. People are complaining. And he snapped, and he strangled me until and I lost consciousness. I mean, I went somewhere else. And the two men that were with him, one of them pulled him off me. And I mean, they were all in this like complete drug state. And, and I was used to it because it was something my parents did often. So, but I remember coming to, and I remember thinking, he just killed me. And my father just like tried to, I mean, I don't know if I died, but I mean, I was unconscious, and I would have been dead if that man had not lifted him off of me. So, after that, he brought me back down to the Bay Area, to Santa Clara, where we were living, and it was so weird because like this whole time he had me and he wouldn't let me out of his sight. He wouldn't let me out of the room. And we get back down to his apartment and he goes to get a pizza. And I like just called my mom's friend down the street and said, come get me. And she's like, oh my God, where have you been? And I said, we're at his apartment. This is the address. Come get me. And I didn't see him again until court, when he was tried and convicted for the kidnapping. So, but it's always been, there's been somebody there to step in. And I mean, I'm here for a reason. I should have been dead. But I don't want to laugh about that. But those people, living with them was, it was hard. So.
But you have the angels.
I have my angels, and I've always believed there's somebody, watching over and making sure that I'm here for a reason. Maybe it's bringing my daughter into the world. She's a beautiful rainbow baby. I don't know what it is, or it's just shedding light and meeting people like this and experiencing the things I do, and I love it. So I'm happy to be here, and I thank my angels daily.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jodi on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjodi.me. That's chaplainjodi.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jodi. Sound effects for the show created by Andre Opate and provided by Pixbay. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.